Cold War. We've all heard of it before. You know that old thing wherein two nations were acting tough in front of each other, but were really too pathetic to do something? Ah yes, kind of like two high school popular girls with drama. You know who you are.
You're supposed to give a summary of the Cold War, you spoiled, unglazed basic donut left on the road with no value.
Quiet! I don't need none of your criticism. Anyways, we're here for the rockets from the space race. A product of human ingenuity, fueled by passion and competition. Assuming that you know what rockets are. If you don't, please leave. Your presence is not welcome. Such a marvelous creation of beautiful chaos. These big or small, pointy or round, we don't judge, machines are a starting point to our thirst for power. So, simple formula for you guys to remember. Rocket plus big boom boom device equals power. Now we'd like to look into what could have happened if the moon were to blow up. If the moon on the off chance exploded, there would be many consequences, including debris possibly landing into our gravitational sphere and then landing on Earth, crushing whatever is on the surface and creating possibly earthquakes from the shock. Another consequence would be that we would no longer see the stars in our sky, since the moon is what reflects lightness onto our stars that makes it visible. With the moon ceasing to exist, the Earth's orbit would change. This would lead to our calendar to change as well, not to mention the tide would change as well. Surfing would probably be impossible.
Looking at this topic, something other than the idea of us not having a moon comes to mind. What would the consequence of setting off a nuke in space be on Earth? Firstly, the explosion would be different, since space is a vacuum and therefore the blast of the nuclear explosion would dissipate instantly and there would be no sound to it and would travel further and faster than it would on Earth. Secondly, the effect this would have on Earth is still detrimental even if it's in space. If a nuke were to detonate close to the Earth's atmosphere, the nuclear radiation would travel to Earth. Side effects of nuclear radiation traveling to Earth and space would include charged particles interacting with our magnetic field, which would create light rays in our sky, as well as most of the power on Earth shutting down.
Now you're probably asking yourself, oh great, I just sat through a science class basically. Well, yes and no. It's actually a history class too, but interestingly enough, looking into this sort of helps us understand some other things. Like, what's the meaning of life? Well, no, not that, but looking into the failures of our history and scientific research and seeing how wrong things could have gotten helps us kind of appreciate the society we're in today. And yes, believe it or not, we live in a society. As well as that, we see how outcomes of the past have led to many things in the future. If it weren't for NASA trying desperately to beat the USSR by creating any sort of brilliant plans, if it was to blow up the moon, we wouldn't have the iconic NASA that we have today. And by iconic, we mean iconic. When British students were asked what inspired them about America, an overwhelming amount of answers were NASA. And if NASA hadn't have been as ballsy as they were during the Cold War, they probably wouldn't have British kids say that they're inspirational.
Anyways, that's all the time we have today to talk about random things of the past that no one really remembers, because why should they? Thanks for watching the video, hope you enjoyed.